What movie is a 0-10? 90% of Netflix's horror section. The Bye-Bye Man, a real movie that Netflix decided to allow on their streaming service. Netflix needs a sort by language feature. Mean Girls 2. Till there's a Mean Girls 2. Yep. I hoped it would be something like The Plastics and Katie adjusting to college. No. Just a washed-out shitty version of the original. Slender Man 2018 NGL. A small teeny tiny part of me had a sliver of hope for this movie, especially considering that Slender Man would be the perfect creepypasta character to center a movie around, but no, they fucked it up in every way imaginable. From what I understand, the movie got butchered in post-production due to the real-life incident where two girls stabbed their friend and blamed it on Slender Man. The studio got nervous and a bunch of stuff was cut out of the film, and what was left was just a mess. Too bad. Out of all the famous creepypasta, Slender Man is my favorite. It's such a terrifying concept. If you want the Slender Man itch scratched, there's a series on YouTube called Marble Hornets. It must be a film student production, but it's genuinely creepy and surprisingly good for what it is. Does anyone remember, and I am sorry if I made you remember, the second Highlander movie? You think that was bad? You clearly never saw Highlander, the source. Dragon Ball live action. I actually forgot this existed. Now I wish I hadn't. On the bright side, without evolution we wouldn't have had Toriyama get motivated enough to come back to Dragon Ball out of sheer spite. So in exchange for a single horrid movie we got 3 really good ones and a pretty good series in the form of Super. Pretty rare for me to turn off a movie once I commit to watching, but I think I made it 20 minutes into Estaco before having to end that experiment. Yeah. Grimacing face. That was bad. I hated this movie so deeply. Donnie never needed a sequel. It was a perfectly uncomfortable emo kid sci-fi about time/space and learning the painful parts of mere existence that no one realized we all needed. It was a one-off and should have remained that way. The fact that the only person associated with both projects is S herself, which leads me to believe the director was probably a rich kid who recognized her vaguely in a Starbucks years later and was like, hey, whatever happened to the dude? And went from there. Live action Kim Possible. As a die-hard KP fan, it's trash. Even if you don't know KP, it's still awful. Begging your pardon, you said there's a live action KP? Disney's Artemis Fowl. The only thing they took from the books was the title and the names of some characters. Literally everything else was completely made up, has nothing to do with the plot of the books, and is portrayed in a way that would feel condescending to a 5-year-old. Just the trailer was enough for me to realize it was trash as someone that read Artemis Fowl as a kid. Glad I avoided it. I'll make sure to not watch it then. Artemis Fowl was probably my favorite book series growing up, and I'd hate for this to ruin it. Jack and Jill swept an entire Golden Razzies one year. For those that don't know, Adam Sandler managed to win Worst Actor and Worst Actress for his performance. I consistently get reminded of this movie's existence because it was a reward on Survivor. The team that won the challenge got an exclusive screening and you can just sense the fake laughter. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul. Hashtag not my Roderick. Not my Roderick. Artemis Fowl and Percy Jackson. Even the author of Percy Jackson, Rick Riordan, described them as his life's work going through a meat grinder. I've read the emails he exchanged with the movie staff when they sent him a draft of the script. You can feel his worry and fear as he pinpoints several key issues in their draft, and they changed nothing. I own between 25 to 30 Rick Riordan books. Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus, Magnus Chase, Kane Chronicles, Trials of Apollo plus Philolore/mythology books. A few $100s worth, and years of my childhood was spent reading his work. Watching those movies hurt me inside. Cool that they were recognized, but they didn't do his work justice. Dead Like Me movie. Show was one of the best things ever. Movie just a fever dream imitation. I am still livid about what they did to Daisy. There was no Dead Like Me movie. We all agree that Hollywood shared a bad dream with us. It didn't happen. Utter misfoul. I've seen Shrek 3. I've seen the Percy Jackson movies. I've seen the god-awful Emoji movie. But this movie is the most rushed, lifeless piece of garbage that I've ever seen. It's so unbelievably bad, it isn't even ironically funny, except for the cases where the CGI design was atrocious. It feels like what happens if you play a game, skip all the cutscenes, and try to recap the story. I pity those who have read the Artemis Fowl books and witnessed how the movie desecrated the story, which seems to be way better than this disaster makes it out to be. I read the series as a kid, and when the movie released I was so excited to watch it with my family and maybe get my younger siblings to try out the books. I was humiliated and am ashamed of the film. Artemis Fowl does one thing really well, put me straight to sleep. I tried to watch it on streaming maybe 3 to 4 times. Never made it more than 20 minutes before I was out like a light. The part I saw was pretty darkly lit, and completely uninteresting. I might put it on tonight to get a good rest. Theodore Rex. The movie Whoopi Goldberg was forced to make. It's one of those films where the story behind it is infinitely more interesting than the film itself. Fantastic God, what a train wreck. Fantastic. r/bad movies. Nice sub for movies so bad that people actually enjoy them for how bad they are. That said, The Pest with John Leguizamo. I watched it constantly as a kid and recently rewatched it as an adult, and goddamn, it was terrible. Still nostalgic though. One stinky dinky, The opening sequence alone is worth 5 points easy. Holmes and Watson, that Will Ferrell movie. It is, to date, the only movie in my life that I have actually walked out of the theater rather than finish. I certainly wasn't expecting anything serious, obviously, but it was just bad. The trailer was like honesty in advertising, conveying the idea this unfunny, but for 2 fucking hours. As a genuine Holmes nerd, I gave that one a complete body swerve. Glad I did, it sounds dreary. Highlander 2, there should have been only one. Highlander 2, the theatrical release, not the more widely available and slightly more palatable director's cut, is one of my go-to favorites when I host bad movie nights. It's just a dumpster fire start to finish. Never happened. No. Sure didn't. Cats. Fuck that movie and the horse it rode in on. My friends and I went in to see Cats armed with alcohol, had some good laughs, and a fun time mocking it relentlessly. We were the only ones in the theater so we could yell as much as we wanted. Still low-key mad it was the last film I'd ever seen in theaters before the pandemic hit. #release the buttholes cut. I've deliberated this in my head a lot, but I've decided that Dragon Ball Evolution is the worst movie ever made. A complete mockery and insult to the franchise it is adapting, in addition to just being a horrible movie overall. In fact, I believe one writer even publicly apologized for it. Close second is Disaster Movie. It was supposed to be intentionally bad, but it somehow was still worse than I could have thought. Another contender is The Last Airbender, same reason as Dragon Ball, but not quite as egregious. A less known bad movie that is maybe not quite zero territory is Skyline. I heard somewhere Toriyama wrote Dragon Ball Super because he hated the movie so much he didn't want it to be the last piece of Dragon Ball media. Nah, Last Airbender is a 1/10 because what they did with Aang's tattoos was gorgeous. The rest of it, decidedly less so. Skyline was so poorly made they ran out of money before they shot the ending, so the actual ending of the movie is a fucking montage of stills with a couple of main characters blowing up alien brains. Worst movie I've ever seen in theaters, and I saw Wicker Man in theaters. At least DB resulted in Dragon Ball Super movies. Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox, guaranteed.